Today we're actually going to put an extender cable on a Lightmeter, and this is so we can pull all kinds of amazing tricks and set up and test daylighting systems. This is a 12-foot length of about world's crummiest small gauge speaker cable, and then I have some plugs and jacks. These are F59 connectors, also known as RCA jacks, which means that the Radio Corporation of America probably invented the things. These come from Radio Shack, and when you get the boots off of these things, you always discover that there's something about them you don't like. Now we have our tools required: little screwdrivers, nippers, strippers, and always a scissors, because for some reason you're always looking for one of those. These are actually different kinds of plugs and jacks. The jacks say that they are solder terminal and twist off strain relief. Okay, and indeed you have two little holes that you're going to use to connect the wires to and solder them in place. The other one says it's a pull off strain relief, and it is solderless, but we are of course going to solder it, so you can work that thing out of there. And it's got a little hole here on the outer ring, and then on the tip it's got a tiny screw in a socket, and we're probably going to remove that screw and fill the socket with solder and see if that works. So let's get these little screws out of our plugs and try and determine about what our strip length on our cable is going to be. Always remember to put your boots, your strain relief, on the cable before you get started, because otherwise you're going to end up with things soldered onto there with a boot in your hand looking really, really foolish. Now, in use, one of these wires is always going to be the one that's taking the strain. It's going to get pulled on by one way, shape, fashion, form or another. I don't know, your choice. One or the other of the wires is going to be taking the strain. So we're going to make a third hand out of a needle nose and a hair scrunchie, and this is going to hold this in place while we do our soldering. And we're going to fill a little cup, strip the wires, tin the wires, get some tinning on these things and solder them. And I'm going to make a few of these so that we can pull some really cool tricks in the garage. Okay, these are fairly large connections we're making, so I'm going to use some garden variety 60/40 solder, not really electronic solder, and start tinning some surfaces and filling the little cups if possible, which you can't see me doing probably. And there we are, get a little solder in the cups. Tin the wires, of course. And we'll just proceed making our connections. Always keep everything clean. 91% isopropyl alcohol. Now, before you cut the Lightmeter cord, you have to ensure that you've taken a before and after test to make sure that extending the cable doesn't mess it up. One way to do it is to put the Lightmeter head someplace where you know you'll be able to get the same amount of light back on it. But if you have the luxury I have, you just compare it to another one. I've got 50 and 50, 14.5, 15. So in order to get enough length to strip to play with this boot on, I'm going to shorten up the boot, the strain relief, with my handy scissors. And now I have plenty of lead protruding, and see if we can strip it with the strippers. And it is giving me some grief, but I don't want to mess up the inner conductors if it all possible. So I think we're going to end up using a blade. Okay, well, we're going to see if we can finesse the insulation off with an actual blade. When you do this, no sawing motions. You want to bend away from where you are cutting. Look at it very carefully, and if you can see any inner insulation, you're pretty much there. You want to keep consistent in a spot and rock the blade gently with very low pressure. And there are my 2 wires. And what you really want to do then is, under a bright light, and if you're me with reading glasses, check to make sure you haven't nicked or cut the inner insulation on these. Now we can solder on our plug and get on with our life. We've got the jack and the plug on there, so the thing to do now is cross our fingers, reinstall the battery compartment, plug it up, turn it on, and hope for the best. And let's see what happens. I get, fingers crossed, power, foot candles, range 0, take off the cap, yippee-ki-yay. I'm looking at, it says 58. Let's grab another meter, throw it kind of next to this one, try this one too, and I've got $59, $62, okay, $23, $25, something like that, $13 and $14. They look to be reading about right. Let's turn it off. Let's stick a 12-foot cable on here. Let's see if we get similar results. Here's our 12-foot extender cable with our Radio Shack jacks. And off we go. Power on. Lux foot candles. About the same as we were reading before. We got 23, 25, 65, 73. Let's even them up here. Yeah, they look about the same. So things look about right. Yeah, I would have to say this was a success. So now that we've done this, we can get up to some youthful hijinks out in the garage. By the way, this video brought to you by Advanced Compliance. Advanced Compliance, when you're utterly clueless and would like to be at least a little less than utterly clueless. Advanced Compliance may very well be able to help you out.